Fellow racers, and welcome to the Portuguese track guide for F1 2021 game. The Autodromo International Dual Garb is a clockwise 4.653 km topsy-turvy roller coaster track with 15 turns, 6 to the left and 9 to the right. It is a recent track within the F1 calendar after being completely rebuilt after the 1980s era of Senna and Prost, with 2008 being the reopening year and used for winter F1 preseason. It was also used for junior driver championships where drivers like Daniel Ricciardo, Charles Leclerc and Valtteri Bottas experienced it during their junior careers. It was also a late calendar add-on in 2020 mainly due to the implications caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, which seems to have impressed the audience so much that it was also included in the 2021 calendar as well, despite the short notices. Portimao is a modern venue with elevation changed back into its layout. The Ricardo Penna designed 4.6 km lap sends drivers swooping uphill and down-dale before culminating in a plunge down to the final right-hander at the Gulf, leading back to the pit straight. It is mostly renowned by eSport drivers for turns 5 and 8 due to their complexity, but also one of the most satisfying track on the calendar as it shows the true handling of an F1 car. The lap record holder is that of Lewis Hamilton back in 2020 with a 1 minute 18.750 and usually consists of a 1 to 2 stop strategy depending on the driver's style and aggressiveness on track. So, with reference to the hot lap, this is mainly a very important track when it comes to the handling and the throttle application, especially when it comes to turns 5 and 8 when it comes to the eSports framework. However, given the nature of the track with its elevations and the kind of corners and its curves, which are usually deadly in this game, one needs to be very cautious when it comes to applying specific throttles, gear changes, and the approach towards arriving to specific turns. So let's get on with it. We are starting the lap, trying to get the maximized track when it comes to this part. We are keeping on the left side of the track, and now we are coming to the 50-meter board. We will need to keep as left as we can, and as you are start to noticing here, within the 70-meter distance we are decelerating into gear 7, gear 6, gear 5. So we have gone down 3 gears, we have kept to the most left side of the track, and we are now arriving into the tight right-hander of turn 1. It is a very high speed turn, and you will need to really kiss the curb here, not touching the yellow part of the curb, and then instantly go back into gear 6, slowly applying the throttle and not trying to exceed the track limits. In fact, you can notice here that the car is exactly within the track limits of turn 1. Of course, turn 2 is not so hard to beat, but we are arriving into turn 3. We are carrying a lot of speed, trying to maximize the track as much as we can. However, at this point we are starting to brake. So just before that white line that as you may see in front of you, we are starting to brake, trying to mount the curb, or at least kiss as much of the curb, and at the same time we are trying to turn the car with a smooth turn, and preferably trying to touch the apex of turn 3. Then you are noticing another thing here. I have not gone to the far left side of the track after exiting turn 3. Why is that? This is because mainly we need to go as rightwards as possible in order to go for the elevation of turn 4, which is one of the hardest turns that you need to maximize out of it, because it is also the corner before applying the DRS straight, which is mainly the first DRS that you have during the lap. And let's put it in a normal video for now. So what has been noticed here? So basically this part is that we have gone from gear 4 to gear 5, we are not applying full throttle, we are just like half throttling it and slowly releasing that throttle. Exactly at this point we are touching the curb, and as soon as we have touched the curb we change into gear 6 because the car usually tends to rotate a little bit more than usual, and that's why it causes the spin if you really apply the throttle. So at this point, when you apply gear 6, you slowly apply more and more throttle, trying to turn as less as possible. You can note the steering wheel is not really turned to the full, it's only slightly turned, and in fact we are trying to maximize the track as much as possible before we apply the DRS. This is the point where the car needs to stop turning and needs to go straight and slowly back into the track, into the full track, before going into turn 5. And this is also another tricky part where it comes. There's a downhill, and in the 8-meter mark you will need to start braking because you are going downhill and you are carrying a lot of speed. As you may notice, we are mounting the outside of the track and slowly going into turn 5, going even down to gear 1. And this has been an important thing that I have learned. Sometimes touching the curb would help, but in this case not touching the curb exactly here, just going by its side with gear 1 is preferable. As soon as you arrive at this part, you will need to upshift quickly into gear 3, as you may notice from the steering wheel, and slowly applying the throttle. If you apply too much throttle, the car will spin. If you apply too little throttle, the car will go slower, and as soon as you apply the throttle more, the car seems to lose its bearings. So it needs to be very smooth going out of this part. Very smooth. Then we are applying into gear 4, fully into turn 6, full send. And this is another important approach to turns 7 and 8. Turn 8 being one of the most difficult turns in the F1 2021 game. But it is very satisfying if you really get the flow going. So we are touching the outside curb here. We are still in gear 7, but what's gonna happen here? I have instantly gone a gear down. This is important because it gets you the grip and the turn that you really need to carry within turn 7. We are touching, almost mounting the curb of turn 7. We are applying the full throttle now. Full throttle, trying not to exceed the track limits. It's so easy that the car gets carried outside, and then we start to brake heavily for turn 8, where we instantly go into gear 3. We keep the flow of it. As soon as we touch the apex, we can change into gear 4 so that the car keeps on carrying the speed without spinning. And as soon as you feel the car has gone straight, you can apply the full throttle out of it without having the car spinning. Not full throttle instantly, but you need to plant the throttle right here. So let's see the full sequence of turns 7 and 8 without having all of this explanation. Going back onto 6th, 5th, 4th, 3rd, touching the apex, 4th, plant it, and then instantly go to gear 5 and 6 and so on. So turn 9, we are arriving into turns 10 and 11. This is also a tricky corner. You will need to really carry a good level of speed, and at this point you will start noticing with full gear 7, but arriving into the corner, we are now going to slowly go into gear 6, 5, 4 and 3. And at the same time you are still noticing that the car is keeping a little bit into the outside or at the left side of the track, but This is because we need to go into gear 3 and need to position the car as good as possible to touch the apex of the stern and turn into gear 4, not planting, not really applying that full throttle, but you will need to have a half throttle and the least turn possible, because this is also a downhill sector where a lot of throttle would easily cause the car to over rev and spin. So as you may notice here, I have kept it very smooth, and you will notice during the lap how much delta I win when it comes to this part. So let's see these sequence of corners 10 and 11 with full speed, going back into gear 3, trying to adjust the car as good as possible, and then getting the throttle perfectly. So this part, another corner, this is an uphill corner again. If you over brake too much, you will lose a lot of traction. If you brake too early and then apply early throttle, you may have the car spinning. But if you apply the optimal brake and throttle, you will have the feel of a good turn coming up. So we are here in gear 7, and we are going to slowly go back into gear 2. We are kissing the curb right here, but then going into this turn. We have already gone into gear 2, getting the flow out of it. And then as we touch the apex of this turn, we go instantly into gear 3 and gear 4. So we short shift into gear 4, trying to have a half to 3/4 of a throttle in order to get the car moving, because it's so easy to spin here. And then go instantly into gear 5. And there's a reason why. It's so easy that you can keep it into gear 4, but then you will have an over-revving car going into the turn, and that would mean that the engine brake would take a little bit longer, and hence you may miss the apex of turn 14. So we have gone into gear 5, and at this point, as soon as we are slightly gonna touch the outside curb, we are going to brake into gear 4, gear 3, and keep it into that gear, because that gear is the optimal gear to get the turn of the car as smooth as possible. We touch and kiss the apex of turn 14. Instantly, we turn that gear into gear 4 as soon as we touch the apex. We short shift into gear 5, not applying the full throttle, but in this point, exactly at this point, this is where the car really needs to apply full throttle, because you will need to maximize the track at this point. And this is turn 15. We are trying to get the shortest distance possible out of it, and we are applying the full DRS until you finish the lap. And you can notice that the lap has improved, and this is mainly because the aim of this track is that you need to keep it as smooth as possible. It's like a smooth operation during the course of the track, and it's so easy that you get track limits, of course, because of the elevation nature of the track, and the car can easily wobble and go outside of the track, getting the track limits. So this is a very technical track, and yet so satisfying when you execute this in a very nice manner. So I hope that this hot lap has explained to you all the basics and all you need to know about the Portuguese Grand Prix. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you wish to leave some comments, feel free to do so. In the meantime, I thank you and wish you a pleasant rest of the year. Ciao. So that's basically it when it comes to the Portuguese track of the F1 2021 game. It is a very enjoyable track with the track elevations and the throttle applications and the short shifting techniques and everything. I hope you have enjoyed this track guide as much as I did, and let me know if you have any questions in this regard. I hope you a safe and pleasant rest of the day. and I'll see you on track. Ciao.